What's going on, everyone? So yesterday, the San Antonio Spurs officially drafted Stephon Castle. He was a guy that the Spurs were linked to for months, really. He was a guy that supposedly the Spurs were extremely high on, and I don't know how you can't be. I mean, he's got good size, good versatility. The guy does all the dirty work. He's a real hustle guy, and I mean, you could look back, and he may end up being the best player in this draft, like genuinely. He is an absolute dog, and I think the San Antonio Spurs got an excellent piece and running mate alongside Victor Wembanyama. But this is a guy that the Spurs, I always kind of felt like they were going to take. Now, originally when we got into like the draft talk, you had like Nikola Topic, who was linked to the Spurs. I think some of that was just, being the foreign player. Spurs really love those foreign guys. But also, he was looked at as this like high upside skill, versatile guy. But then with all the injuries, after that, it was just kind of like, all right, Castle's probably the way to go. There were other murmurs of like Rob Dillingham the Spurs were interested in, which I think is funny because they drafted him and then ended up trading him, which, not gonna lie, I kind of thought that they should have kept him. It's my opinion. Maybe they want to go kind of more of a veteran route. Just kind of felt like the trade. I get it. To me, it's to set up for that next guy, right? And I'm sure the Spurs, they want to get a little more established point guard. But nonetheless, it's kind of like, man, like, why not keep Rob until you kind of figure that out, right? Because a lot of talks about the Spurs are incredibly high on Darius Garland, that's the guy that they want. And, this is what that was for, right? If Donovan Mitchell, reports are that Donovan Mitchell is supposed to opt or sign a new extension. So if that's the case, and, Darius Garland does become available, well, then you just got 2 extra draft picks that now you could use to maybe entice for that type of trade. And, you're in good position. I also think that this is probably, after drafting Castle, probably the end of Johnson, right? Keldon Johnson's probably on his way out from the Spurs. You keep him as like an off the bench piece like he is, but I think he's just making too much money. He's a guy that you could use as, financial incentive to go and pull off a trade to put you in a better position. Now, again, I think Castle is going to benefit greatly playing alongside Victor Wembanyama. And I also think Victor Wembanyama is going to benefit greatly playing alongside Stephon Castle, right? Victor's getting a guy that can do a little bit of everything out there on the basketball court, but also a guy that's willing to sacrifice and do the dirty work, as I mentioned. And you need those kind of guys, right? If he keeps the mentality that he had with UConn, I think he's going to be great, right? And this is a guy that can basically play, the 1 through 3. Really, maybe on some occasions you could slot him at the 4 because he is 6'6", got a good wingspan. But it's just, he's best at like anywhere from the 1 through 3. But he's a guy that can just, you put the ball on the deck and get to the basket, apply some rim pressure, shoot from pretty much anywhere on the basketball court. Obviously, his shooting needs to improve, and he's going to need to continue to grow and develop. But that's usually what you get with these young guys coming right out of college, right? Very few guys out of college immediately come in to the league and are just lighting it up, shooting, 45% from 3-point range and all that stuff, right? But Castle, I think he's a guy that, the Spurs can be comfortable and confident in to really have that defensive prowess alongside Victor Wembanyama, right? Because, I mean, Victor already is arguably, and I think that I think this season it won't be an argument anymore, but arguably the best defensive player in the league. I think he probably is the best defensive player in the league. But you need to get defensive pieces around Victor. And I think Castle's a guy that will take on the challenge and will be aggressive on the defensive side of the basketball and will be that pest. Also, like you saw, like if you watched him in UConn, the guy was everywhere at all times whenever you needed him to be. Now, I'm not talking about just like the defense. I'm talking about like everything. I mean, the guy made like every big play, got every offensive rebound, just did all the dirty work for UConn on their championship run. The guy was exactly what you want and exactly what you need from a player. And I just think alongside Victor, I think he'll help elevate Victor even further. And I think he'll be elevated thanks to Victor. Having that guy that you can always count on to have your back and if you make a mistake, can go and clean it up, right? Like that goes a long way. And I think Castle's a guy that also he's I think you have your key two guys. I know you have Devin Vassell, right? And he's a guy that I do think is a real fixture and foundation piece as like your two guard. And I've seen some people talk about how they don't really need a point guard, right? You got Vassell, you got, Castle, like you don't really need that point. No, they do. Look, I like Castle as much as the next guy. I've seen a lot of people talk about, just play Castle at the point guard. He's capable of doing it. He's not a playmaker. And can he make a play? Yes, of course. There's a big difference between a playmaker and a guy that can make a play. They already tried to do this, the Zohan type thing. It just, no. You gotta get a playmaker. You gotta get a point guard. The Spurs gotta stop playing these let's have Zohan go out there and play the point forward position and he can make play. Oh, now that didn't work, so let's do Stephon Castle and have him be the playmaker and be the. No, can Castle maybe evolve into that one day? Sure, but you gotta get a point guard, right? Point guards are important and valuable for a reason, right? Castle has, he's 6'6" with a 6'9" wingspan. You can put him at the 3, right? Vassell at the 4, at the 2 guard, right? If you could get a Darius Garland, beautiful, right? In a perfect world, you have Garland, Devin Vassell, you have you have Castle, you have Victor Wembanyama, and now you're just looking for that 5. Go get that 5, and now you're in business, right? But to again, even Vassell, he's not a playmaker. He can make a play. He can find the open man. He can find the occasional cutter. But you saw, if you watch Spurs games or if you're a Spurs fan or whatever, you saw how frustrating it was to watch Victor Wembanyama basically at times like he's not even on the basketball court, right? There were, at least a handful of times every game, Victor would have clear established position. There were times where he was entirely wide open. I think it was one of the Warriors games. Literally, he was by himself, nobody around, and they just missed him. How do you do that when the guy's 7'5"? It's frustrating. You gotta get a playmaker. You gotta get somebody that can initiate and set up and establish the offense. Obviously, the Spurs, they like that free-flowing ball movement type offense, right? So you're probably not going to run something where it's Chris Paul and he's just making every play and doing everything. No, you're probably, it's going to be through committee, but you still need that playmaker that can settle things down at times. Still need that playmaker that can come in and initiate and get you into your offensive sets, right? Castle should be an extension, just as Vest should be an extension. These guys need to be extensions rather than the main playmaker, right? And Stephon Castle is going to have so many other responsibilities, right? He's going to have to defend. He's going to have to hit shots. He's going to have to be able to create for himself and create for others, right? Let him do what he's best at. Don't try to force him to be something that he's not, right? Let him cook, right? And I think that these two guys are going to be something special for the Spurs. I think the Spurs are going to be in really good shape with these two guys. You add in Vassell, again, you have Victor. Maybe you get a 5 or you bring in a 4. I know some people want to see Stephon to be the 4, and whenever I mention about getting a 4 or 5, people are like, "Don't sleep on him." But I like him. I think he's best off the bench, at least for now. Can he develop and be a little more consistent? Sure. Right? There's games where Stephon just looks spectacular. Then there's games where you're just kind of like, can we get this guy off the basketball court? Right? Like, so again, I like him. I'm not saying I don't. I want to make that clear. I just think, like, if you're the Spurs and you're trying to kind of win now, I think you need to get another big guy. You either need to get a legit 4. There's talks about them maybe interested in Tobias Harris. I don't know if that's the best option, but there's nothing else on the market, sure. And then bring in a point guard, right? Bring in a real point guard. Whether it's a guy that is just momentarily or a guy that's now in the future, like a Darius Garland. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What were your thoughts? Were you excited for Stephon Castle? Do you think, no, they should draft somebody else? What do you think of the future? Again, how you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.